Welcome to the deep dive. Today, well, we're doing something a bit different, actually.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Instead of our usual articles or, research papers, our source material is from a stand-up comedy performance, a transcript, specifically.
Right, from comedian Malik Alassal.
Exactly. And we're diving into his set because his humor is not just jokes. It's like this incredible lens on personal identity, cultural stuff, self-discovery even.
Yeah, he packs a lot in there.
For sure. So our mission today is really to unpack the kind of surprising bits of wisdom hidden in his stories. The deeper truths about resilience, family, faith, all that.
Navigating the world, basically.
Pretty much. So let's jump in. Okay, so Malik kicks things off, taking us way back to his school days.
The Islamic private school.
Right. And he talks about the just sheer disbelief from his teachers when he said, hey, I want to do comedy.
Yeah, like what?
Totally.
Right.
He says that one teacher asked him, no, you want people to laugh at Muslims? And you're like, yeah, kind of, yeah. And then the imam, a religious leader, pulls him aside. Gets really serious.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, tells him, you think this life is funny. My friend, when you see the power of Allah on the day of judgment, brother, you will not be laughing.
Wow, heavy stuff for a kid with a dream.
Seriously. But here's the twist. Instead of stopping him, all that opposition, it just fired him up.
Right. That happens sometimes. The pushback makes you dig in.
Exactly. He talks about hearing rappers like Meek Mill. You know? And Meek Mill had this line, something like, to the teachers that said I wouldn't make it, here I spend a day with you, make a year.
Ah, the classic flex.
Yeah. And Malik thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to flex just like that.
Okay.
But then he brings it back down to earth, his own reality check. He jokes it's kind of hard for him to say, here, I'll make a year, what you make a year, because, well, it doesn't quite hit the same.
Right. Maybe not the same financials just yet.
Or his other punchline is like, you didn't believe in me and now we're roommates, dumbass. Good job.
Okay, that's good.
And he mentions one teacher who literally predicted he would starve as a comedian.
Ouch.
But Malik's reality now, he lives with his parents, never been hungry a day in his life. And his mom, he says, still cuts up fruit for him and brings it into his room. Why? Because she has zero boundaries.
It's funny, but that whole sequence really shows something important. It's about defying those expectations, especially from authority figures, right? But it's also how that opposition can ignite passion.
Totally.
And the humor lets him reclaim that whole narrative. He gets to subtly flex his own version of success. It's not the mansion and cars, maybe, but it's contentment. It's having his needs met, even if it's, fruit from mom.
So it's not just about the money flex, like Meek Mill.
No, I think it's deeper. It's about finding peace in his reality. He owns it, jokes about it, even the zero boundaries, and that kind of disarms the initial doubt, the prediction he'd starve. He's showing well-being isn't just one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. He flips that starving artist idea completely. Okay, so from that kind of personal defiance, he shifts gears a bit, still using humor, but tackling something much heavier, identity and safety.
Related to his mother.
Yeah. He points out, he doesn't look very Muslim, whatever that means. But his mother wears a hijab, so she looks Muslim all the time.
Right. Visible identity.
And he tells this really upsetting story. A mom's driving, stuck in traffic, and this guy pulls up next to her, sees the hijab, flips her off, and then starts following her car.
Oh, man. That's terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. Malik says he was scared, obviously, but his mom's reaction, just incredibly defiant.
What did she say?
He asked her later, have you ever thought about taking it off for safety? And she just looked at him and said, Malik, I would rather die a martyr than let those people change me.
Wow. That's powerful.
Right. His immediate comedic reaction was like, all right, Tupac, Fing, relax. Jesus, chill out. Don't talk like that.
Got to break the tension somehow, I guess.
Exactly. And then, only as a comedian could, he comes up with his own solution for her safety. It's both absurd and kind of poignant.
Okay. What is it?
He jokes about launching a line of hate crime-proof hijabs.
Oh, my God.
Including, wait for it, the Confederate flag hijab, because, quote, nobody's going to know what to do when they see that.
Wow. That's certainly a concept.
And his other prototypes, an Allah hijab that's just a little bit pointy in the back, for peace of mind.
Yeah, and what's striking there, beneath the absurdity, is how it shines a light on that tension, right? Between expressing your identity freely and just wanting to be safe from prejudice.
Totally.
His solutions, these crazy hijabs, They're so extreme, they actually highlight how unjust and absurd the problem is. Why should someone even have to think about stuff like this? The humor becomes this, like, weapon against the hate itself.
It feels like he's fighting absurdity with absurdity.
Exactly. It's a way to cope, maybe, with his own fear for her, but also to point out how ridiculous the prejudice is. He's not making light of the danger. He's making light of the hatred driving it. It's a coping mechanism, maybe, but also a form of resistance.
So dealing with external pressures, and then there are the internal ones, he gets really personal about his own mental health journey next.
Right, the therapy stuff.
Yeah, 4 years with his therapist, Helen, who he found, by the way, by Googling "help, please."
Oh, wow. Relatable.
Right. And he describes the specific anxiety he told the matching service about. He said, I'm not as good of a Muslim as I was raised to be, but I still feel like a good person.
That's a really specific conflict.
Totally. And tied into that is this whole free will versus predestination thing. He struggles with the idea that everything is written before we're even born. Like, am I just doomed?
Deep stuff to bring to therapy. How did Helen handle it?
Well, that's the thing. He found her approach less than helpful. He calls it kind of new age. Yeah. He gives examples like her asking, tell me more about this Allah character.
Oof. Okay.
Or even, why would you hang out with a guy like that? Referring to Allah.
Wow. Yeah, that's not understanding the context.
Not at all. And the breaking point for him seemed to be when she asked for his astrological sign.
Seriously.
Yep. His response was, Helen, come on, we can't both be mentally ill.
Huh. Fair enough.
So he basically expresses this wish for a therapist who gets his background. You know, someone like a hypothetical Dr. Mahmoud El-Shabazz, who would just get it. Maybe even, he jokes, tell him to pray, brother, your life is haram.
You know, his struggle with Helen, it really just puts a spotlight on how vital culturally competent therapy is. It's not just about qualifications. It's about finding someone who can actually grasp your worldview, your specific context.
Right, someone who doesn't call Allah a character.
Exactly. For him, his faith, his background, it's all tied up with who he is. When the therapist dismisses that or like totally misunderstands it, it makes the therapy less effective, maybe even harmful. It's about that disconnect between his spiritual framework and her maybe more secular or new age approach.
Yeah. It feels like they're speaking different languages almost.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to bridge that gap if your therapist doesn't get such a core part of you?
It's incredibly challenging. Sometimes the person seeking help ends up having to do all the bridging themselves, or they just keep searching. Ideally, you find someone who understands that spirituality, for many people, isn't just like a hobby. It's fundamental to how they see everything, including healing. It's about respecting the whole person.
And that joke about being told his life is haram, just to clarify, haram means.
Right. So haram in Islam basically means something forbidden or unlawful according to religious teaching. So him joking about Dr. Shabazz saying that is like this funny acknowledgement of wanting someone who speaks that same religious or cultural language who might offer a faith-based perspective on his struggles.
Okay, so dealing with personal stuff, his mom's experiences, his own therapy, how does this all connect to how he navigates the wider world? Specifically, public figures he might admire who say problematic things.
Ah, yes, the Kyrie Irving and Kanye West section.
Exactly. He starts with Kyrie Irving, the basketball player, sharing that anti-Semitic documentary, the Holocaust denial stuff.
Yeah, that was a whole thing.
And Malik talks about having this, like, aha moment. His takeaway was, if a guy tells you that he thinks the earth is flat, don't ask him about the Jews.
Huh. Okay, that's a memorable line.
Right. He doubles down, saying there's no woke flat earthers and people don't usually double up on causes like that.
Interesting theory. A bit simplistic maybe, but I see his comedic point. The impulse to find a pattern in irrationality.
Yeah. And he applies similar logic, or maybe frustration, to Kanye West. He admits he was a Kanye apologist for ages.
Yeah.
You know, always saying, just wait for the album, bro.
Uh-huh. Heard that one before.
But then Kanye says he's going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews.
Right. Which DEFCON 3, that's a military term for heightened alert, so it's really aggressive language.
Super aggressive.
Yeah.
And Malik's reaction, even as a former apologist, he just deadpans, this better be a good album.
Wow. The humor there is dark, but it speaks volumes about that struggle, loving the art, hating the rhetoric.
But then, this is where it gets really personal for him. He connects all this celebrity stuff directly back to his own family history.
Okay.
His family's from Lebanon. His mother grew up there, saw unbelievable things, like Israeli tanks rolling through her village in 1982.
Jeez.
And get this, a missile landed in his grandma's house.
Yeah.
And Malik says, flat out, If that missile went off, I would have never existed.
My God, that puts everything in a completely different light. It absolutely does. Suddenly, anti-Semitism isn't just some abstract issue or celebrity controversy. It's tied into his family's direct experience of conflict, survival, his own existence, basically. That aha moment about flat earthers might be comedically simple, but his reaction comes from this incredibly deep, visceral place.
Yeah, it explains why he might have such a complex, maybe even conflicted reaction to someone like Kanye. It's not just of the music anymore.
Not at all. It forces you, the listener, to think about how our own histories shape how we react to these public figures, and they're often really harmful ideologies. How do you separate the art from the artist when the artist's views feel like a direct attack on your history or even your right to exist? It's messy.
So to kind of wrap things up, he brings it back to the life of a comedian, but still manages to tie everything together in this really funny, awkward story.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's about traveling for stand-up. And he has this practical hack because he kept losing his boarding passes.
Happens to the best of us.
Right. So his solution,
Uh-huh.
make his phone background his boarding pass. Smart.
Yeah. Actually, that's pretty clever.
But he also uses his phone background sometimes for a quick list of joke reminders. Just keywords,
I see where this might be going.
Yep. He forgot to switch it. He goes up to the airport lady, holds out his phone to show his boarding pass.
Oh, no.
And she sees his list of joke topics,
Mm-hmm.
which included gems like Islamic school proved them all wrong, bulletproof hijab, my therapist is the crazy one, and my personal favorite, just Israel payback.
Oh, my God. Just laid bare right there at the gate.
Can you imagine her face?
That's hilarious, but also, wow. That anecdote kind of sums up his whole style, doesn't it? It's like his comedy is just his life, unfiltered, accidentally revealed on his phone screen.
Totally. Vulnerable, awkward, but real.
Exactly. He turns these personal, sometimes deeply uncomfortable moments into the material itself. There's no real separation. It's that raw authenticity.
So when you pull it all together, this deep dive into just one comedy set, it really shows how powerful humor can be, doesn't it? Malika Lassel isn't just making people laugh. He's using it to wrestle with who he is, with cultural clashes, even with, historical trauma passed down.
Yeah, he takes all these lived experiences, the school teachers, his mom's scary encounter, the therapy issues, the family history, and he transforms them. Makes them relatable, funny, but also, really thought-provoking.
It definitely makes you think. You laugh, but then you kind of sit with it afterwards.
And maybe that's the final thought to leave everyone with. In a world dealing with so many tough, complex issues, prejudice, identity crises, problematic heroes, what is the role of humor, really? Can it be more than just escapism? Can laughter actually help us process difficult things? Can it challenge beliefs, maybe even our own, in a way that, say, a lecture can't? Could it be sometimes a doorway to understanding, even when it comes from a place of pain or just sheer absurdity?